Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we are back to Mirror's Edge Catalyst. We are in the underground layer of Black November under the part of the city where there probably isn't too much parkouring on the rooftops. That would be my assumption. There might be a little bit of this. It's frankly almost impossible to know though if like this tall tower was that big tall tower we destroyed, but I suspect it's not. But since that wasn't really marked particularly well, it's kind of hard to tell. It could be any of these tall buildings. It wasn't even that tall of a building either, so it could have been this one. But relatively speaking, that building's not even that tall compared to this tall building. We did find out at the last 5 seconds of the last recording that there is actually a decent amount of backstory that's being revealed as far as these documents. Um, these last four ones I think are particularly important to know, and I really feel like the game should have just told you about them. Uh, but it didn't, and I haven't read all of that. Instead, I want to just move the story forward and get the uh, unlocked, last upgrade unlocked, so that we can do everything. And then it will become a question as to whether we want to
Yeah, we need an explosion there. That
whether
explosion
we
will
want to
be our
finish
cure.
the
That ought to keep
story
them scrambling.
completely, or whether we want to run around
Faith,
and try and get
good to see
collectibles.
you. You're gonna want in on this.
I know her. She led the raid.
Yes, we don't have much on her other than that she's a high-ranking KrugerSec officer. And our target for today.
I'm not an assassin. Count me out.
We're not killing her, we're grabbing her to trade for prisoners.
We should do this, Faith. Payback for the lair.
Sure.
Faith
What's the
definitely
plan?
getting pushed further and further into
KrugerSec
more
needs to
dangerous
receive
criminal
intel detailing the
activity.
location of someone they want very
Although, in all
much.
fairness,
Me. She's gonna lead the
the
strike team and walk right into our ambush. I
the
need you and
runners
Icarus to clear our escape routes.
We'll handle that.
were already
Yeah,
being
well,
chased,
until we can strike a
and it was
tangible
pretty
blow, we don't have much
dangerous
else we can do.
I'm not sure you can
career
ever win
path.
this way, Rebecca.
And I'm not sure your opinion matters yet. Let's get going.
So they're saying this woman led the raid. I did not see her leading the raid. She does look like the woman that took down the spy at the beginning of the game a long time ago. But that's weird. Certainly that you would say the wrong thing. I really feel like this whole main story is really just an afterthought. Alright. So we now have the ability to tear down things with our mag rope, which is cool and all, and does point us probably into being able to act and go in different directions and collect everything. For instance, this stuff. Hmm. Hmm. You know there's a collectible back behind here. So, how do I pull things down? Well, it doesn't seem like you can. That's interesting that she commented on my move. My slide. So you can't collect that, apparently, yet. Alright, well. I still wonder if Tristan might be a spy. You're not really doing too much with him, it seems. I guess overall in the map, there's still underground stuff we're doing. So we're gonna stay in this area for a while more. Although it's kind of hard to believe that staying underground is going to lead towards like liberating the whole environment. Okay. So now we can pull down this ladder, even though that ladder was totally not animated in any way to look like it had been pulled up. Let me jump just to make sure. Sometimes these games, it feels like your feet are stuck in the floor and you're not as tall as you should be, or your character's not as tall as you should be. There's 12 more grid leaks in this whole area. Easy enough to make a jump there and collect that, but not much to do otherwise. And that's a very illogical bridge because it has no connecting points that a normal human would use. Alright. And the runner's vision is just going to highlight that stuff as being pulled downable with the red. Cool enough. We'll go a little off the beaten path. And again, it's probably a little safer just to fall than it is to roll. Wasn't really paying a lot of attention as to what this quest was going to be, other than we were going to try and capture this lady. Again, this lady that we capture could be somebody that relates to Faith's family, who seem to all be dead. That's what the flashbacks are showing. It would be, you know, fairly funny if it turned out Faith is not Faith. She is some kind of like brainwashed sleeper agent from being in prison, or her memories have been modified completely while she was in prison. That would be kind of the excellent way of saying, oh, actually this game is a sequel to the first game, because in the first game that really was Faith, and this is, they just took her memories and programmed it into someone else, or messed with her memories for some other reason. Rebecca's plan has planned a hard blow against KrugerSec. Her intent is to kidnap a high-ranking KrugerSec officer, the very same woman you first saw at Elysium. See, now they're getting the reference back, and later at the raid on the lair where Noah was killed. I guess maybe she was in the cutscene and I just didn't see her or recognize her. That's probably the case. You know, having a game where you're running around all the time, you kind of get this tunnel vision where you're not really going to focus on the faces of people. And clearly in this game, they don't even draw the faces of too many people that differently. So this lady may be your sister, maybe your mother, maybe nobody. You and Icarus are to support the kidnap attempt by clearing escape routes back to Black November. Hide out more of those automated turrets. Sentry drones have been set up in the area, and now they're activated. So this is basically the same quest that we did before this.
We'll do our part, Rebecca. Don't worry. Avoid the sentry drone's field of fire and disable their control terminals directly. It's the most effective way. Got it.
Yeah. You can definitely see, though, as I just picked a totally different path. Ooh, That was interesting. I fell and didn't roll, but also didn't fall on my face. Maybe that's because I had a little bit of shield left, or maybe that was just intentional. Maybe I can now fall shorter distances and land. That really sucks because we now know there is a way to fall and not fall flat on your face. And yet, it's obviously not been easy to do up until this point. Here you have a lot of broken ground and even some plants. This game has been, for the most part, completely devoid of any plant life, which is questionable to say the least as to how is Black November feeding its troops.
Seems we got our work cut out already, Faith. I got our first set of sentry drones here. Let's take them down together. And be careful. Those things are programmed to kill.
It probably would have made more sense to introduce the idea of more robotic enemies instead of human enemies. I wouldn't want this game to go full Portal where there's just turrets everywhere and only turrets, but it definitely could have been something like the turrets in Portal much earlier in the game. I think we are about to run into something like that, but they may very well also just be floating, flying drones that shoot bullets, and if that's the case, we've already seen those. This is an interesting transition.
Damn, they got a lock on me. I'm pinned. They can't hit me, but I can't move either. You'll have to deactivate them.
So this is maybe I'm looking for a switch to deactivate them, or maybe I'm just gonna run up to them and hit them. And that was a full transition there from a tunnel that breaks into a pre-existing tunnel to back to the overworld. There is still a problem, nonetheless, here in pulling down that stuff, because it doesn't seem like there's a way. Man, I'm really screwing up this jump here. It doesn't seem like there's a way to hit that A button, pull down something, and be running towards that same thing and continue with your dash.
Won't stop shooting. Be careful you don't get into their field of fire, Faith.
Again, I fell, but not on my face. It would be very weird if the game suddenly plays a lot better. Right. And you just touch these things and it turns them off,
Getting a bit hairy there. Meet me downstairs.
which that's fine. And I suppose this is a perfectly fine idea of a drone, just a gun on an arm. You don't have to get too crazy with it. This blue kind of feels like it would have been a collectible, but it isn't. And these cases just open from the top and split, which is fine. It's probably not how I would animate it, but whatever. And then we're back to another cutscene already.
If we're gonna do this.
We could split up. Take one route each.
Good idea. I have a feeling Rebecca won't accept failure. Scary woman.
I thought you liked her.
Well, maybe it's time you
That
guys
first
start to
line
see
of
things about
dialogue
one
sounds
another.
weird.
Maybe. Just so you know, I'm doing this for Noah. Not for her.
Me too.
Yeah, Faith all of a sudden sounds
We just
like she's
disabled
being
Sam.
voiced
Then what are you
in a very
waiting
different
for?
way, a
I
more
brought you
depressed
breakfast.
way,
Fast. Get a move on.
um,
Sir, yes, sir.
which kind of makes
Be root
sense.
and you go A. They'll never know what hit him.
Icarus does certainly have a point. We don't know anything about him. We just kind of, I don't know, got off on the wrong foot with him.
From the info I got, there are 2 control terminals along your route, Faith. First one should be marked on your beat.
All of you, this is Rebecca. The diversion is ready, and the team is almost in place. Today we'll show the families that none of them are beyond our reach.
The equipment being called a beat is cool and all, but it's probably not the best name to have thought up. And it sure feels like there should have been more to this. Like, I must have just found a shortcut, as it were. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Or maybe they just made a secondary shortcut in case somebody struggled. Because beat doesn't really mean anything. It's like, it's not like it's a Beats by Dre headphone or anything like that.
Several drones connected to them. Disabling the next one.
I thought that was a collectible, but it's just a wire hanging there. Some of the lightings in this sections are kind of rough, kind of darker than I think you can go. There's a visual aesthetic that was established certainly by the first Mirror's Edge, and I don't think you can violate that visual aesthetic as much as this room does and have people feel good about it. And then there's just a lot of 3D models of stuff here that's unnecessary. Although, in fairness, I will say we have yet to come to a section like the car park section in the first game, because there was definitely a point where you ended up in this kind of car park type environment. It felt like a car park in my vague memories. It may not have actually been a car park. But it was very tough. There was a lot of people around, a lot of bad guys around attacking you. A very tight, difficult later section. And I guess this is, sometimes you have to be in the darkness to appreciate the lightness, but look at how the lighting immediately changes when you're walking into an area that's brighter. The whole room looks better now. And yeah, and I don't think it would really benefit the game to potentially have sections where the lights were turned off and then the lights turn on, like they are doing here.
Got it. Sorry.
I'm just taking my sweet time here, and it looks like we are outside again. They really are showing a lot of cutscenes in a row. You needed more of this earlier in the game and in a lot of other places. You needed a lot of flybys showing and establishing the whole area where the game wants you to go. Alright, so we're going to enter a building. Yep, that's still way too slow. And this is just a building being built, redeveloped. Who knows what was here first or before that point. You still have to do a lot of wall running where it would have been probably nice to get rid of the need to wall run and upgrade to another system Or you could just jump a little bit higher.
KrugerSec really means business.
Cut the chatter.
Every time you see a ladder, you're assuming that the game wants you to go upward. And the game has been fairly consistent around that.
You're closing in on the terminal. I'll work on a way to get you across to the second one once you're done.
Little walking
There isn't much
in
cover there,
water.
so the trick will be to stay on the move. The tracking algorithm isn't all that good. Just don't stop while they're targeting.
Stay on the
You should be
move.
okay. And there should be a few places where they can't see you. Good for a breather.
It starts to make a little bit more sense
Fast, and they can't track you.
to have these kinds of sequences where something's shooting at you that's stuck in one
I
place
want both teams clear. You understand?
compared
Yeah, we're doing our best here.
to
I don't need your
the
best.
AI of
Done.
the enemies. Look at my hand stuck in the floor. I can't climb up because my hand was stuck in the floor there. I had to curve around the edge.
Ambush sprung. Team Anders, move in. Team Bernadette, flank to the left.
Alright.
Target spotted. She's leading an enforcer squad. Take him out.
Actually, I have no idea if I'm being shot at or chased by sentry target guns or
Forces down.
just people.
Target.
Well, thank goodness I could run on the other side of the wall. Right, and is this the only one?
Target in the bag. All teams stand by to extract.
Yeah, well done. Head for the roof. I got a ride waiting for you.
So I guess that was one of the guns.
What's the status
That
of
was one of the guns.
Almost done.
Almost won't cut it.
Seems like Icarus may get captured and he may become the person that we're gonna have to try and save. Yeah, consistently Rachel does not feel like she is
All right.
leadership
Tell you why,
material
get this moving.
anymore. She feels a little too aggressive, a little too
Jump to it.
it looks like we're gonna do what was literally the ending of Mirror's Edge 1, or at the beginning of Mirror's Edge 1 you also grabbed the
being a runner.
ledge of
Become a crane operator, Icarus.
a helicopter leg.
Seems I got the basics down.
There seems to be no helicopter legs
Terminal.
or helicopters in this version of the game. I assume I'm supposed to be going this way. I've never done a double wall run. So, if this secret briefcase is up here, I'm not sure where it would be. Up there, or not really sure how to get it. So I have to kind of assume that it's that. Yeah. It was. And then we'll take that. And then we'll get back to doing that.
And this is the central repository of all test results.
So it seems like we're back to following action, even though it doesn't really feel like this is a sequence really where it should be following action.
Any specifics you'd like me to delve into, Director Merritt?
We'll get to that tomorrow when I introduce you to the team.
Fine. And who will I report to?
You'll be reporting to me, of course.
Oh, I thought...
It would be funny if it turned out that Rachel was a scientist originally.
We're gonna have to crash something into it.
Feels like there's a grid leak somewhere around here. But clearly this really isn't a following action sequence if people are shooting at me some more.
Keep moving. I think I have a solution.
And I assume this is a case where the bad girl that we were trying to trap and kidnap has already been kidnapped, and I've just been kind of left to fend for myself. I guess we're going up this way.
We need that last terminal disabled. If I lose any people, it's on you.
So a very interesting question here. Where are the checkpoints? What did I screw up so badly there that I took those extra bits of damage?
Damn, hold up. We need that last terminal disabled. If I lose any people, it's on you.
Ignore her, Faith. Just get it done.
So that's an interesting example of falling behind and then messing up what was a jump. Yeah, if anything, I think the checkpoint there actually moved me to a higher spot than I deserved to be at.
See that stack of steel beams I'm lowering? Jump onto it and punch the emergency release. And remember to hang on.
See the stack of steel beams that he's moving now? Jump on them later, apparently. Yeah, now that you're getting that.
Almost there. Make the jump. Good, now punch the release.
A? No, X? This is a very cinematic sequence. Certainly not like not anything particularly one-to-one there in the first game.
Do it. I'll lower the hook. Rebecca, Route A is clear.
Well done. Could have been faster, but still, well done.
Did we take out the guns? At what point?
We're moving the package
I don't
now.
think so.
You got the target?
We did. Team Bernadette got one wounded, but no losses. A good day. See you back at the base.
You heard her, Faith.
There probably should have been more sequences like this where
I
you
wonder if the Impulse
can
know about the
just
sentry drone. It kind of tarnished Krugersek's rep.
They know, I'm sure. They just choose to look away.
Well, somebody should wake them up.
like you're just stuck here
Secure an elevator.
looking at the
Straight to
city.
HQ.
Great. How's the prisoner doing?
Alive and well. And she'll remain that way until I decide what to do with her.
Okay. So at this point we could disrupt AI, or we could go with more health, and clearly we need more health first. If we had gotten upgrades to damage, that would have been a problem. Although at any point we could find out we need a upgrade to defeating the Sentinels. So yeah, we ideally want to get just as much upgrades or sit on some extra upgrade points as quickly as we can. And see, now you have kind of this playground area on the ground, which really should have been more of a practice area to begin. Like, particularly if you hadn't played the original Mirror's Edge, this would have been very helpful to have you practice. And that is sort of what they had you do in the first game, is that they had you run through a couple tutorials and a couple areas, do a couple things just to prove that you actually understood what this game was about and that you could actually pull it off. This game got more to the story and more to the point a little bit quicker than that. And that's probably for the better. Since I imagine a significant amount of people who did play this game played the first Mirror's Edge. I don't recall this game being heavily advertised or anything towards like new people. And that was arguably a mistake, because if you are going to do a reboot or just a remake of a game that really wasn't even that old, you might as well put all of your eggs in that basket and advertise it like it's a new game, like nobody had ever heard of Mirror's Edge before. And this clearly is a falling action section. And like the other area that was on the ground, you're gonna just have walls here. So it doesn't feel like there was a lot of thought to have an entire city where you could walk on the ground. It would be wasted, certainly, if you had made an entire city that was where you could walk on the ground, because very few players would have actually chosen to walk on the ground. I think that's where I'm supposed to go. Even in the original Assassin's Creed game, I would argue that walking on the street level was very, very rare, and they pretty much didn't try that hard to make the street level interesting because of that. If you were on the street level in the original Assassin's Creed game, you were either doing a stealth mission or had failed fairly miserably. Let's see. The development area, though, has a massive amount of grid leaks in a lot of places here. Like, it is still very much that awkwardness where you have just a ton of distractions available to you. So if you are going to be obsessive about getting collectibles, or you just want to run around and investigate areas, they're giving you every opportunity to do that. Oh look, there's even a dash. Like, we might as well try this. Let's just see how this race goes. And go. Even if we fail this race miserably, we'll have some stuff we can deal with, and we'll see collectibles. Yeah. See, and these are the races that you can reset, so you have that extra vulnerability to, or it's not really vulnerability, it's a benefit of being able to reset yourself if you fall downward. Okay. Interesting that I either fell and died there or I just ran out of time. I guess it considered me leaving the course or something there. So just leave it like that. It doesn't matter if you get the stars or not. That is now a teleportation spot, or it should be a teleportation spot. So you get that benefit by doing dashes. How can we get up? Seems like there's a way over here. We've now collected 140 grid links. There's still 30 in this whole area. But it's not the grid leaks that are the problem. It will definitely be the all-com computer circuits that would be the problem. Because trying to find all of those, if they're not marked on the map, would just require you to cheat. Find a... It's fairly doable, probably, to use a walkthrough to get all of the... to get all of the documents, because there aren't that many. But these computer chips, there's 8 more in this area, so even if I was going to follow a walkthrough, I would have to go to probably all 16 possible areas and just start over from square one. We may, at this point, also not have any quest enabled, since I did that run. If that is actually the case, then that would explain the runner vision not pointing in any specific direction. Right, so there's a rope up here. How do we hit that rope? I guess you do that. Boy, this is super dark. Yeah. There are clearly experiments on lighting in this area. Out in the open. Let's see how this goes. I hope that was necessary. Doesn't seem like it really was. You're just never going to get any of these runs done in a reasonable amount of time without knowing the exact best path. So it would... Apparently I've been promoted now to class 5, whatever that means. It would make a lot of sense to just watch a speed run of every race, which almost certainly there is somebody that's put out a video on YouTube of speed running each race, just to have a general idea of what they did and what the direction. In fact, it would make a lot of sense for that to be the first thing offered to you when trying to do any race, is to see an echo or a video of that race in game. But that doesn't seem to be an option. We had already done this one. Right. Are we sure we have the right quest? No. Alright. I think that's probably more than enough goofing around for this point, and we'll just have to start working our way back.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
We found a vehicle, or rather Firebird found us a vehicle. She's finalizing the deal tomorrow. It'll be the rest of our script.
That's okay. We got the supplies, right?
We do, but I'm not comfortable with us having no margins whatsoever.
This always was a desperate
Weird
venture,
visual
you know
glitches
that.
back there.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, did you hear? That girl Faith who took the vaccine?
What about her?
They locked her up in juvie. 1-year sentence.
1 year? That's not so bad. Someone must have pulled strings.
Yeah, someone powerful. Anyone else would have gotten a one-way ticket to the Greylands.
Or just a bullet in the head.
What vaccine did she take? Alright, we've got to test this. Alright, so if you try to get somewhere that the game doesn't want you to go, like there's no reason that should have killed me. This is an out of bounds section. So is the grid and the grid links propagated via some kind of virus or nanovirus? And that vaccine, does that stop you from connecting to the grid? It's very possible. You'd think there'd be more focus on that if that was an important thing. Or in general, you would think it would make more sense that that would explain why you were in prison at all. 1 year versus being sent off to the no man land of the Greylands is a big difference. So yeah, I guess you're working your way back down this way to get back underground. It once again feels like it really should have been way more story focused around explaining the backstory naturally as you move through the main missions, instead of having to find at best 1/3 of a recording in the story.
So then Gabe says he's got a special mission for us, right? That he wants us to sweep the old tunnels for mines and stuff.
Hold up. Did you just call Gabriel Kruger?
Yeah.
We're on first name basis. There's a bromance. You know.
Yeah, does he know that?
Of course he knows that. I call him Gabe and he calls me George Gordon.
Of course he does.
You shut up. I'm trying to tell the new guy about our mission.
Well, hello there, George Gordon. You're so big and strong. I've got a special mission for you.
What kind of voice? He doesn't speak like that at all.
Exactly like that.
He doesn't speak like that.
He sounds more like that than your impression of me. Oh, just shut the hell up, don't you?
Well, Gabe said to me that hair movement shows weakness.
Well, he's right about that.
So I'm just gonna make sure my hair is gelled to shit. Come on. Let's go and do some yoga.
Alright, so the thing is up there. I can't get into this wedged area and then turn around and jump. So I have no idea how I'm supposed to reach that area. And that recording, more than likely, is absolute nonsense. It doesn't mean one bit of anything. Looking for mines of gold from the original Omnistat. Seems like that's not likely to be anything. Here you can see there's basically invisible walls that she's putting her hands on. Alright, well, let's do that to get back up here. You really have to be up there. So it almost certainly has to be a case where you fall down this direction. Like the only other thought would be to do like a wall run, turn around and jump. Or find some way to grapple on something. Yeah. So it's either go back up in the elevator and work your way down, or it's through this next room. And it doesn't really feel like it's through this next room. This was the area that was blocked off before, and now it's just been moved. And the path has been opened. This doesn't make a lot of sense, though, because there aren't... Let's switch our echo again, since it doesn't matter. There aren't any other movement abilities, really. Focus shield increasing, extended slide. Everything else is combat related or disruptor related. So unless they just give me some new movement ability, and it sure would be nice if you could just mark that on the map and say, hey, runner's vision, show me how to get up there. Like, if you could mark the collectible and runner's vision pointed you in that direction. Like, alright, let's say we got up to this point. Can do that. Okay. Now. Is it easy to climb up to this? Not particularly. Is there a jump there that could be done? I don't think so. Unless it was climb up this window. If the window is perhaps some ladder technology that we just have never seen before or they experimented with. Alright, if that's the way. It couldn't be something as crazy as running around the wall and doing like a full 360 and then jumping back up. That wouldn't make sense either. There just has to be some other way to get up there. And as far as coming back this direction, I bet there's not anything really to find or interact with. Yeah. There was a document over here we had already collected. This would be the point, certainly, for a big twist, or an interesting twist. Although, I haven't seen any real big or interesting twists yet, so I'm not expecting much. But if all of a sudden this lady said she is your mother, or Kruger is actually your father, or you're actually a brainwashed spy, or something like that, or anything interesting, that would be great if it moved the story a little bit along and gave us a chance for a couple more missions and a bit more story development. What would be boring here is she just gives up the goods under torture or kills herself with a suicide pill or something, and then we know where Kruger is, and then we just have this quest to go capture Kruger, which Kruger, being in charge of KrugerSec, is not even the only bad guy, whereas in the first game, Kruger, in charge of KrugerSec, kind of was the only bad guy of note. Here, we would have to try and hunt down and take out many members of many families, oligarchs. And even at that, just killing a bunch of oligarchs, French Revolution style, is still not going to change the systems that are in place to maintain a corporate dystopia like this. Viva la Resistance. I thought that was the quest we had already started.
Rubersec has come down with runner cabals all over the city. Rebecca, not for you. Nor the last.
Let's see this cutscene. They should talk more about this news reporter lady.
So, there's a fighter in you after all. I was afraid you'd chosen the path of your parents. Don't get me wrong, they meant well. It's just that the world wasn't ready for their ideals.
Frankly, Rebecca could be in a completely different game and she would make sense if she was like in Mad Max game or something.
You grabbed quite a prize.
What do you mean?
It's all over the news. That's Isabel Kruger. Gabriel Kruger's daughter.
Sounds like she's about to die. So, if she was actually Kat and Gabriel Cruz brainwashed her and raised her as his daughter, that would be the probably most interesting twist.
She put 4 of my people in the infirmary. We know who you are.
Then I suggest you let me go.
Maybe. Alive or dead depends upon what your father offers in return.
I can't imagine Kruger caring for anyone.
You were at Elysium?
And you murdered my friends.
They were leeches. You all are.
And you're just a tool. A broken one. I've seen enough.
You can even kind of see it in the face.
You and I should talk later, Faith.
Yeah, that is definitely Faith's sister, Kat. So we have now
They did.
new missions.
And I just saw they put up one of those antennas right next to the lair.
Yeah? Then I'm gonna take it down.
Nomad. So she's in A9 and you can't go back in there. There's a lot of different things being pointed on the map right now. Yeah, you can definitely see why it's just better to probably do all the dashes at the end. If they're just going to constantly give you more dashes, although the other argument also would stand to actively do more of the missions and dashes as they appear, so you're not spending a ton of time doing everything at the end.
No, it's gone, huh? Feels strange. I'm gonna miss him. I'm sorry, I know what he meant to you.
It's hard to even remember who Nomad is. Like that's a big problem. There's been too many characters. Like, do we know if Birdman is dead?
Classic? How did you know I was here?
I could explain it, but you wouldn't understand.
Okay. What just happened?
I geolocated a metagrid access construct on your beat. It means you can help me expand my access in that area. It'll be just like what you did before.
No problem. I'll set you up.
Thank you, Faith.
Okay. So this quest, ear to the ground, tap all the data points before the firewall shuts it down.
Great. Same routine as always. Good luck.
Right.
Good. You got the first one. Keep it up.
Screwed up there. Come on. Come on. Let's just hold the reset.
Great. Same routine as always. Good luck.
Okay. It's probably smarter to go this way.
Good. You got the first one. Keep it up.
Did I get it? Nope. Like, I would have to jump that way. Alright, so that won't work either. It is this direction, which I guess that makes more sense.
Good luck.
Alright, let's go.
You got the first one. Keep it up.
Come on. Alright, we're stuck now. Okay. How do we grab that one? What's funny is they're talking about like Omnistat propaganda as if that's something that they really need to be concerned about. Because Omnistat as the former country of this area is seemingly long gone, unless there's some remnants of it. Okay. So, next part. The conglomerate is freedom. Omnistat is slavery. Yeah. Okay. I don't know how you're supposed to reach this one.
Great. Same routine as always. Good luck. Good. You got the first one.
You can't really plot these out in such a way, though, that you would get more practice on the more difficult ones. So like, I don't know if there's yeah, if I could get that one and then jump and then get that one and get that one, that would be all of them. Yeah. For games like this that are going to give you these kinds of challenges, you might as well have checkpoints after each. Like, this doesn't open to that, though. So, it really seems like there is no reason . Alright, let's reset that.
Great. Same routine as always.
A lot of mistakes very easily made in a rush like this. Is there possibly some way we could get a wall run on this and then a jump?
Great. Same routine as always. Good luck.
And I suppose the question here is there a way we could undo this? There is, I guess, a way to cheat this. Let's avoid this one. Slide under here. Avoid this one. And then we can just take our sweet time getting up to this part. And then once we hit that one, we only have to worry about the original pair. So we go through that, do that. I should have rolled. Do that. Now we do this, and then do this, and then this, and then up here, like that, and that. And that gives us kind of plenty of time to reach where we need to go. We have a few seconds left. That was done incredibly awkwardly.
I'm thinking of hooking the whole metagrid up to the beat as sort of a failsafe if we fail to stop reflection.
We still don't have a clue what reflection even is. And that puts us back to where we were. And this is a safe house in the development zone. Apparently exists, but we haven't seen it. The barbed wire in the original game was more circular. And that probably was a little bit more to animate, but it stands out. If they were going to go with a flat barbed wire to show this is an area you can't reach or you can't cross, they should do us at least a favor of having some kind of visual aesthetic, as this is a different color, and that different color indicates that you can't access that area. Blue Kruger sec. Have no idea who's even talking to me. But yeah, since yellow means you can climb or something of interest, and red means definitely go that way, blue has been mostly highlighting something related to Kruger, like glowing purple or something. Wouldn't be a terrible choice. Alright. There's still almost certainly a lot of collectibles. 14 grid links, 2 more surveillance recordings, 1 more document, 4 more secret bags, 5 more electronic parts. But I'm not aiming to try and get them all at the moment. Once again, it's not a good time to have it be nighttime. Visually, this is not what you really want to see. It would make some sense if nighttime was, to pardon the pun, the right time to take a break and collect collectibles. If they said that you can't leave a region during nighttime, and you need to find a certain number of collectibles in an area, or wait a few seconds, or it's just way more dangerous to move during the night. That would be a natural excuse to have the awkward transitions that do occur between the mad dash sections and the slow parkouring sections. Alright, this area in particular is very awkwardly laid out. Feels like there's a big open area and very few transition points. This is, whether it's on the rooftops or on the ground, this is probably what a more open world game would have felt like throughout the entirety of the experience. It's just a lot of boxes and jumps and runs and things that would stick out visually as being intentionally placed so that you can jump around and do parkour moves, not things that are naturally placed. And that's fine for a construction yard, but it would feel real weird for a more completed section of the city. So assuming we're right about Kruger adopting Kat as his daughter, what does that really do, say, or change? It probably doesn't change too much. Unless Kat secretly has some kind of plan and she's been secretly plotting to betray Kruger for decades, or at least 1 decade, or she's gonna betray Kruger and become the real big bad guy, which that too wouldn't really change much. Yeah, we're fairly late into the game to have a revelation that she is the sister, and it end in anything other than kind of a simplistic hug. You saved me, which is sadly how it kind of ended in the first game too, is that she Faith saved the sister, and that was about it. In the first game, Faith's sister was just the police officer, not the adopted daughter, so they're giving her slightly more importance storyline wise, but not really. So what I want to check here is if we go downward, there's a safe house we could potentially fast travel to get back to Black November, which I think probably would be very useful to be able to get back there. And then there's another safe house in the development zone, which is very useful. And then the rest of the safe houses are seemingly just in the corner of a 5-pointed star. A very stretched out, awkward 5-pointed star section. It still feels like there might be one more area in this little triangle of places and rooftops to run on. Then that very possibly is it. Going back and doing payback to disable the antenna at the lair would move the story forward. It still makes the most sense in my mind to just upgrade this. Says now you regenerate an additional stamina over time after recovering from a critical state. I don't know what that really means. And I don't know at what point these stamina did regenerate. Maybe they didn't up until this point. So now it seems like what this is going to do is when you get down to 1 or less stamina, you will regenerate back up to 1 or 2 stamina, probably 2 stamina. Yeah, we do want to do the grid link stuff. And I guess it is easiest to find your character profile and zoom in enough to highlight your player profile and bring that up to get general idea of just how far we are into the story. 65% of the story is done. Let's see. And side missions. As far as world progression, we're only at like 26%. And we may very well in the game somewhere around 40%. I wouldn't be surprised if I just kind of lose interest in finding collectibles and doing all this. We are now at Division 5 Glass, so there is some ranking here for runs in particular against other players. And if they're saying you're in the top 100%, that means you're really in the bottom 100% also. So you did horrible on this dash, or I did horrible on this dash. I should own it. Top 80% is not much better. You want the percentages to be pretty low. Top 30% is not terrible. And if this is really all the races in the entire game, it's not asking too much to potentially try all these. And so you could set waypoints and mark these races also, it seems like, to go for that. I wouldn't be surprised though if we have ignored the dashes and the races in favor of just doing hackable billboards and delivery missions for XP, and again, may not care about doing any of that if you just are going to get enough XP to unlock everything anyways. I wouldn't be surprised if there's maybe a few more missions in the main story. I was thinking about 12, maybe with the revelation of Faith's sister, we might get to 13 or 14. We have now gotten 3 of these travel diaries, which makes it feel like there's probably 5 of these travel diaries, which you might then assume that there might be 5 of every one of these recordings. And it does feel like you get them in order regardless of what recordings you find, because we're not finding any recordings here that it doesn't feel like these recordings are coming in non-sequential order. So it seems like there's maybe 5 or 6 specific recordings, and then that would be it. Whereas these documents, they kind of feel like they are fairly random. Erica Connors. Let's see. Probably is Kat. If this is Faith Connors. Unless Erica is the mother. Which that might be the case too. So this is Nomad. Not to be confused with Icarus. It's weird. Yep. They don't even have a document for Icarus as a character. But I have totally confused the 2 characters in my head. Alright. Well, I don't think there's much else to say or do. We are just slowly progressing through this game, hour by hour. There is, I suppose, something to be said about the visual aesthetics of Mirror's Edge, how it was a kind of a launch title for the PlayStation 3 and looked very good, whereas Mirror's Edge Catalyst is kind of a nothing game that, even when it came out, looked probably as good as the original Mirror's Edge, and that's about it. It didn't push the envelope. And visuals wise, we've had one kind of good cutscene that is then undercut by seeing many in-game engine cutscenes where the camera doesn't even focus on the face of the characters. So you would have kind of hoped to see something new or more interesting around that. Maybe done something more with the echoes, and instead of having flat TVs, have holographic projections of commercials on walls or in safe houses. If a holographic head came out while you were running or sliding across a wall, that would be kind of a big shock or surprise, certainly, and a bit different. But even if they had just zoomed around and focused on Kruger, and maybe even given some backstory on who Kruger was when he was first seen, there could have been something to that. Or, same with Noah, same with any of the characters, just make a bit more of a cutscene there. Yeah, although this game isn't saved with cutscenes, it would be saved with more missions, more of an open world, more to do. And yeah, that's what's the most limiting part and the part to focus on. Anyways, I'm going extra long, so that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.